Thank Hashem that we're able to learn every day. And in this chusar learning, we should have the Beis Hamikdash immediately. For Shleima, for Yechiel Nassim ben Sarah, Aaron David Halevi ben Menucha de Lester, and Avram Rafal ben Sarah. We're on Dalet, that's 4A. Dalet Amud Aleph. There's 2 dots. It says, Havaloimi megashamim mekilan. You can't water the field. We're talking about a Beis Hashlachan. That's a field that needs the watering because it's on a mountain. But you can water it from a spring, but you can't use rainwater and you can't use water from a cistern. And the concern is that that's going to take too much effort. It's going to cause exertion, and it's Chol Hamoed, and certain malachas are forbidden on Chol Hamoed. Which malachas? Malachas that cause exertion. So you're not allowed to water from something that's going to require you to take a bucket and go from the stream to over to the field. So Gemara says Bishleim and Mekilain. You see what this is? It's got to be like 15 lines from the top. Bishleim and Mekilain ikatirchi yisera. I understand if there's a cistern, that's gonna be tirchi yisera, extra exertion. What's the problem with rainwater? Now, I think the way it worked was that if there was rainwater, there would be like a puddle, and you would kick the dirt a little bit in the puddle and let it flow into the field. So why are you calling that exertion? There's rainwater. It's right near the field. You just kick it around and you get the water over.
So the cistern around is like hoeing?
That could be, but we were saying that wasn't an issue. We're asking that shouldn't be an issue. But we understand the exertion part of the cistern. So Amar Rabbi Loi, Amar Rabbi Yechanan. We're going to have two explanations here. What the problem is with rainwater. Rabbi Loi, in the name of Rabbi Yechanan, says. By the way, Rabbi Loi is not Rabbi Huda, but Rabbi Loi. That's not the same Eloi. This is an Amira that tells us things from Rabbi Yechanan, tells us things from Eretz Yisrael. We have it in other Gemaras. It says Amri b'Marava, Amar Rabbi Loi, or Amar Rabbi Loi, Amri b'Marava. We have that somewhere. So here's Rabbi Loi in the name of Rabbi Yechanan. Gezeira me'geshamim mata me'kilan. Well, if we allow you to use water from the rain, you may end up going to the cistern and taking from the cistern. Say, well, there's a puddle over there. There's a big puddle over there. You might take from that. Ravashi has a different teretz. He says, "Megashamim gufayu lidei mekilan asu." You have to realize that the mekilan, the water from the cistern, how do you get the water out? It's a deep cistern, so you have to use a bucket to get the water out with the bucket. Megashamim may be that it's very not deep, very shallow, and with one kick you can empty the whole thing out. But it could be that it's deeper, and what ran off from the top when you kicked the dirt and you made a channel for it, so that was fine. But what's left on the bottom becomes mekilan. So you've made mekilan. You half the puddle is megashamim and half is mekilan.
And you cannot create mekilan.
So the problem is not that you may create mekilan, but if you're allowed to use the megashamim, it's automatically turning into mekilan, because what's left underneath the runoff is water from a cistern.
That's why from a mountain would be better, because the water wouldn't just collect and stay in one place.
Right. So a spring was allowed.
Okay. So this discussion is not about water.
Yeah, it's just about how. I was wondering today if you're allowed to use a hose, because there's no bucket. You just stand out over there, you turn the thing on, and are you allowed to water your grass on Chol Hamoed? There's a whole discussion about logic, but well, yeah, but it also has to do with does the grass need that water? And if you need that water if it's a loss,
Right.
that's one thing. And then if there's things that you're going to actually be using, if you have plants or herbs or something that you're actually going to be using for Yom Tov, that you would be allowed, I think. But two interpretations here. What's the problem with rainwater? So the two interpretations is Rabbi Yochanan and Rav Ashi. Huge gap over there. Yeah, a few hundred years, 200 years. And they're arguing about a statement of Reb Zera. Because the Amar Reb Zera, Amar Rabba Bar Yirmiyah, Amar Shmuel, Naharis HaMeishchen, Mayin Min HaGamim, Mutal Hashkes Men B'chel Shammai. If there's a stream that draws water from the Agamim are like marshland or something. The stream is taking water from that. You're allowed to use it on Chol HaMoed. Now, it's probably coming from puddles. How do they translate it? The stream that's taking water.
Streams that draw water from pools.
From a pond or a pool. Okay. So the issue over there, what we're thinking right now, the way we're understanding this, is that you're taking water from the stream that's coming down. The problem is what happens if the pool runs out of water and you only had half your field watered? You're going to end up going to some cistern and taking more water just to get the rest of it done. So according to Rabbi Yochanan had a gzeira, mei geshamim atu mei kilen. If we allow you to use mei geshamim, you may end up using mei kilen. That issue would apply over here as well. However, Reb Zera allows it. That means that Rabbi Yochanan would not agree with Reb Zera. Mar Yesli the Reb Zera, Mar Lesli the Reb Zera. Because Reb Zera allows, even though you may end up with no water left in this pool, you may have to go get water from somewhere else. That was exactly the concern that Rabbi Yochanan had. If we allow you to use Meksham, you may end up going somewhere else. And Rabbi Yochanan said it's us. Reb Zera says it's mut. He doesn't hold of Reb Zera. Rainwater, which means puddles. Now, however, on the other hand, Rav Ashi said, what was the issue here? That the rainwater itself is going to turn into water from a cistern into Mekilim, because only the top will run off, and then the bottom you're going to need to get from a bucket. So that concern I don't have over here. That concern I don't have, and therefore, the water that's coming from the pools, so that is permissible. Okay. What about if the pools are lower and you have to go over there and take it out? For some reason that wasn't one of the issues. Okay, Gufa, go back to discuss this text. We're on 4a, and by us it's the first wide line. Amar Rab Zera, Amar Rabba Bar Yirmiyah, Amar Shmuel. Rab Zera says the name of Rabba Bar Yirmiyah and the name of Shmuel. The streams that are bringing water from these pools, you're allowed to use that water to water your field on Chol HaMoed, of course, a field that requires water. Beis Hashlachin, right? Eisvei. Tomorrow's the question. Eisvei Reb Yirmiyah or Reb Zera? Reb Yirmiyah asked Reb Zera. Reb Yirmiyah is a student of Reb Zera, and Reb Zera was the strict, very serious teacher. And Rabbi Yirmiyah was, we have a Gemara somewhere that he would like to make Reb Zera laugh. We have like different Gemaras, but he would ask interesting questions. Seems like more light, easy to discuss things with Rabbi Yirmiyah, and Reb Zera was serious. Rabbi Yirmiyah Reb Zera. Rabbi Yirmiyah asks Reb Zera this question. Reb Zera just allowed Naharis HaMeishchen. Rabbi Yirmiyah asks him, but you're not allowed to take from a cistern, you're not allowed to take from rain. Why? Because maybe, the way he's understanding it, maybe you're going to end up going to use a bucket because you're going to run out of the water that's going to flow, and you're going to have to get a bucket to get the water either that's underneath, or you're going to have to get the water from somewhere else. So over here also, maybe you're going to run out of water from the pools. You're going to end up going somewhere else. Amalei, so Rabbi says, Yirmiyah Bri, Yirmiyah, my son. Hani agamim de Bavel, Kimaya de Lepaskadami. These pools in Bavel, they never run out. It's like water that never stops. It's like the hose.
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
It could be the heter. Okay. So there's nothing to be concerned about that you're going to end up using a bucket, and there's not going to be any exertion there. Tanu Rabbanan was taught in the Braisa Hapsikes Fabriches. These are types of pools or reservoirs. Temporary pools. Shenismala Mayim Erev Yom Tov. They filled up with water on Erev Yom Tov. Okay. Now, you're not allowed to use them on Cholamayit to water. But if there is a stream that's also going over there, I don't know if it means that the stream is connecting them, or if it means there's just a stream that happens to be alongside or going between them. So then it's going to be mutter. Why? Because even if the pools run out, you still have the stream. Amar Papa the Papa says that you would need that the majority of the field is being watered by that Amasamayim. Okay. So then that's when you don't have to be concerned about anything from the stream that's always there. That who said that? That's Rav Papa. Ravashi Amar Afal Pishain Rubashalai said the Shaisa. Even if you don't have the majority of the field that's being watered by that stream, but given the Kamashcha Va'asya, Meimaramar Yelashasya Lachad Yem Tishli Trey Tlasayim. Says like this. I ultimately over the next few days I'll be able to get the whole field watered with the stream, even if I run out. And I won't have to go use a bucket because these pools have emptied, these temporary pools. Okay. Tanu Rabbanan. Brecha shenaitves mayim misade beis hashlachem zu mutal hashkis menastei beis hashlachem acheres. This is an interesting case. You have, it's probably on a hill, and you have the runoff from one field goes down into another field.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with this.
And where's the water coming from? Well, it's coming from up on top, but how's it getting there? Is there a spring up there? Yeah. So if there's a spring there, so let's see what happens. It says like this: you're allowed to use the runoff to water the lower field, and we were explaining that. How do you use the runoff? What do you have to do? You have to kick the dirt around to make it that the water should flow in the right. You're allowed to do that. So, Vahavida de Pascha. 1 second. How do you know? Maybe you're going to run out of water. It's not going to, the upper field isn't going to give down as much water as you need. You're going to end up running to a cistern and getting a bucket and finishing off the other side of the field. So, no, we're talking about that when it's going to keep dripping and it's not going to stop. Abaya says that the only way that this could work is if the spring that's above the two fields, that doesn't stop. That has to always be going. If that spring is there, then you're safe. Yeah. So Tanya Reb Shimon ben Manasseh Omer, we have a brisa. Shtei aruga zula ma'ila mizu. Now the aruga is a row, right? A row of what's growing there? Do they say what grows in a aruga? Arugula. Arugula.
No, I think it's pronounced aruga,
And
if I'm not mistaken.
And it's a row of any sort of whatever's growing. It doesn't tell it. It's vegetables or whatever. Okay. So, Zulamayla Mizu, La Yidla min atachtayna v'yashka sel yaina. You can't take from the lower one to water the top one.
Right.
Is it a row? Is it possible that this is? Where's the water in this? That's a.
They used to water's at the top.
They used to have rows of furrows in the ground.
In
Inside each
between.
row, there's a mound. They pour water into one, they start pouring like that through the whole. You can't take it alone.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting.
So you only have to put water in one spot.
Mhm.
It flows, so it's like irrigated. It's like an irrigated field in that case. Yeah, if the water remains then. So if you start pouring water, water flows down, it's time to water in the upper one. How do you get the lower to the upper?
That would be with a bucket.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem. So that's what we're saying here, that you can't take with a bucket from the lower one to the upper one. Very nice. Yaiser Alkei and Levi explained to us that they would make these fields with a mound in the middle, and you would pour water on the top, and it would go down, meander down to the lower one. Yes, sir. Yaiser Alkei Amar Rabbi Lazar ben Shimon. Rabbi Lazar ben Shimon. Afilo aruga achas chetzi namach b'chetzi gavaya layid lemakam namach v'yashkel lemakam gavaya. Even if it's the same row, you can't take from the lower part to water the higher part. Can't use a bucket. Taner Rabbanan. Start in a brisa medalin liyerakis kedei loishlan. Vim b'shvili afaisan aser. Medalin means to draw water. That's what we're thinking. A deli is a bucket. Arimim Hashem ki dilisani. Yeah, Rav Hirsch explains that ki dilisani, that we're hanging, like the bucket hangs from a rope. We're dependent on Hashem with no support from underneath. So yeah, here we're saying that you can draw water for vegetables in order to eat them. I guess needs a little bit more water, and then it's the last day before you're gonna pick it or something. I don't know. But if it's just to make it nicer, that's usher. Remember, we said that if there's a difference between a loss versus profit. So if it's just to make it nicer, then you're not allowed to use a bucket. That's what we're thinking. Ravina v'Rabba Teisva, Ravina and Rabba Teisva, because they're going on the road. They see a person that's using a bucket, and he's watering his things with a bucket. Amalei Rabba Teisva Ravina. So Rabba Teisva says, Ravina Leisi Mar L'Shamte. Let's put him into Cherem. Tough guys. Excommunicate what he's doing. Yeah, throw rocks. Amalei. He says, why are you getting so worked up over here? He's allowed to do what he's doing. It says if he was going to eat it, if it's in order it shouldn't spoil or it shouldn't dry out, you're allowed to. Amarle, so he says to him, Mi Savris, do you think my medalin Maya? When we said the word medalin, we meant drawing water, that's permissible. My medalin, what does mean medalin? Shlufe. It means that you're allowed to pull off vegetables in between to thin out the area so the ones that are remaining will grow stronger. You're allowed to thin it out. That's what it means, medalin. Yeah.
Everyone says Hahu Gavra is like a specific person.
Yeah. It's a non-specific person. I don't know if we have any source that Ahu Gavra means. It's too common. It's not like Saba or Maisa B'Chased Echad, where we have references that it's referring to a specific person. Yeah. So what this would mean now, this is interesting. You are allowed to take a vegetable out from in between to be able to eat it, but not to improve the others, the growth of the others, which it would naturally, but you're not allowed to do it with that intention. Kiditnan, as was taught in the Mishnah, Hamedel begafanim. This is you take off from the vines that is squished together to make it thinner. I'm sorry. Hamedel begafanim. Kshem shumedal b'shalai kachum medel b'shalaniyim. Rabbi Yehuda holds that just like you're allowed to do this for your own vines, you're also allowed to do this if you have vines that area you're going to leave for the poor. You're allowed to go over to those as well and remove to improve theirs. Right? It's going to improve theirs as well. You're allowed to do that. If it's paya or if it's oilolais or something. Div Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Meir says no. Yeah, I'm not sure what the concern is, but it sounds like maybe you may overdo it and say, "Oh, I'm helping the things. This is for their benefit." Meanwhile, you overtake. So the mayor says you're not allowed to. But what are we seeing? That the term meidal means to remove, to thin out the growth so that the other ones should grow better. So that's what it means. And therefore, no one holds that you're allowed to use a bucket. That was the point over here. So Rabbi Teisva is telling Ravina, we should put this fellow in Cherem. I know you have a brisa that says Meidal, the medalin, but that's not talking about using a bucket on Cholamayit. Amalei v'atanya medalin l'mayim li'yarakas k'dei loichlan. But it says, I have a brisa that says medalin mayim. Doesn't mean what you're telling me, that it means to take the fruits out. So Amalei, so he responds, Tanya, okay, I give up. If you have a brisa, so you have a brisa. I have nothing to say. I rest my case. Yeah, okay. I'm not sure. I've seen him around, but I assume he's at the end of the Amirayim. Yeah, I think so. There were certain things you weren't allowed to take a lot of. You weren't allowed to take to storage. You weren't allowed to take it in a way that makes you look like the owner. Yeah, I don't remember the ins and outs. And then, of course, you had the other limit of if there's nothing left in the field for the animals, then you're not allowed to be storing anything. Take it out. Oh, wow. Beautiful. Yeah. Yitzi's here. Tu B'Shvat pears. Okay. You're getting ready for the charesis. You can't make ugiyos. This was round like pools around the root areas on the base of the trees, so that there should be this water available for the roots. Mayugiyos. Amar Rav Yehuda Banki. Banki sounds like the leeches, the bankas. Rav Yehuda says it means pools, pits. What is it? Ditches. Tanya Nami Hachi. You have another brisa that says Elohein ugiyos. What are these? The following are the ugiyos. The didin shebikri zeisim. These grooves. What do they call them there? Ditches. Same thing. Banki didin shebikri zeisim v'shikri b'kufanim that are at the roots of the olive trees and at the grapevines. Eini, is that so? You're not allowed to do this. Rabbi Yehuda shara lebnei bar tzisoy lemevad banki lekarmeim. Rabbi Yehuda, that's Rabbi Yehuda bar Yecheskel, student of Rav and Shmuel. He allowed the bnei bar tzisa, these people by tzisoy, to make ditches around their vineyards. It says like kasha habachadati abatiki. It depends. To make a new ditch, that you're not allowed to do on Cholamayid. But if there's an old one that got a little filled in, you were allowed to fix it up, clear it out, and redo it. Atiki means old. Rabbi Lazar ben Azariah Aimer. Ein Oisin Esa Ama. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, in the Mishnah, he said that you're not allowed to make a stream of water. B'tchila. Initially. Can't make a new stream. Can't make a new channel. The Chachamim said that you are allowed to. On Shemitah. Chachamim said you're allowed to on Shemitah, but not on Cholamayid. That they didn't allow. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah said both Cholamayid and Shemitah you're not allowed to. So Bishleim Moed, we understand why you're not allowed to on Moed on Cholamayid, why you're not allowed to make a stream mishum de katarach, because that's a tircha. Digging sounds like a lot of work, and exertion on Cholamayid is prohibited. Ella shviyas my time. What's the problem with getting the water to grow and to travel in a certain direction on Shemitah? So the Gemara has two opinions. Pligi bar Rab Zera v'Rab Abba bar Mamel. So machlokes. Chana mapnei shenira ka'oder. When you're digging, that's how you have to get to what you have to do to get the water to go in a certain direction. You have to dig. That looks like you're hoeing. It looks like you're softening the soil, and that's what it appears like. And that's prohibited because that looks like you're getting it ready to plant. Other one says, what do you do with the dirt? You take the dirt and you throw it onto the side. That dirt that's on the side, that's piled up, that's now like a mound along the side of the channel. So that's very soft soil, and that you could plant in. That soft soil you could plant in. So it's not the channel itself; it's what they grow on the very good. So the one action does both things. It gets your irrigation and it also gets your planting area.
Right.
You can't do that, and you're not allowed to. It's Shemitah. You can't prepare the field.
It just looks like it. He's not really doing it.
Right.
So we don't care.
Right. You think so? You're right. It says Shanira. Right. My benayu. What's the difference between the two opinions? It could be benayu the kasimaya basrei. If water came immediately, mandam the one that says that you're preparing the sides, the bank, the bed, so you're preparing that to plant. So ikka, that's the fact. There's soil up there that's soft on the mound that is ready to plant. However, the one that says it looks like you're hoeing leka. Why? Because it was immediately filled in by water. It immediately gets covered. As you're digging, the water's coming in. Yeah.
Are you pronouncing it with $2?
No. Eider is to hoe. According to the one that says that it looks like you're hoeing, so therefore this should be permissible. What about the other problem? Why doesn't he hold of what the other person says? That you're preparing the sides to plant the mound. Ella, so that's not a good ikabinaya. That's not a good distinction between them because he has to accept the other one's view. It's going to be usher. Ella ikabinaya, we're looking for a nafkamina, something that's going to be a practical difference. Ella ikabinaya, the kashakal minei v'shadi lebrai. Let's say he's taking the dirt and he's throwing it out. He's removing the dirt. He's not putting it on the sides. So then he doesn't have anything on the sides that's soft soil that's going to be ready to plant. The one that says that you're preparing the sides to plant the mound that's usually between along the side of the channel. So that you don't have here because you're removing the soil. You're not putting it on the side. But according to the one that says it looks like you're hoeing, yes, it does look like you're hoeing. You're digging this channel. You're softening the soil, and it looks like you're making a groove in this ground. Okay. Now the Gemara says, according to him, that now this would be permissible to do this on Shemitah. But why is it permissible? it looks like you're digging you're hoeing. So the Gemara says, "Eider nami kika shakel beduchte manachle." When you're doing eider, when you're hoeing, you leave the soil right there. But here, because you're removing the soil, it doesn't look like hoeing. Okay.
Where you're putting the soil, that's the thing.
You're putting it into a wheelbarrow and you're pulling it away. Yeah. Yeah. Ameimar masnila v'pnei shenirika eider. Ameimar says that Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says that ein oisen es ha'ama. He says it straight in pnei shenirika eider. That's what Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah held. That it looks like you're hoeing. The kashalei the Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, the Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, and then he had a question that there's a contradiction what Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says, because apparently Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah said somewhere that eider is aser. That eider should be mutter. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says here that eider, that you're not allowed to make the stream because eider hoeing is prohibited, but somewhere else it says that it's permissible. But the Gemara challenges us. Does Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah say that it's aser? This is the challenge, because we have a source for a mini. We have a contradiction. Okay, on Shemitah, you're not allowed to fertilize the field. But let's say a guy has cows and he's got a lot of fertilizer. What does he do with it? So he can pile it up in different places. But the problem is, if you put it in your field, then it looks like you're fertilizing the field. So you can put it in a storage. You just make big piles instead of spreading it around. Reb Meir says it's prohibited. Even to put it into this oitzer, it has to be not on ground level. Either you dig it in 3 tvachim, or you raise it up 3 tvachim off the ground. It has to be like on a platform. It can't just be in the field. Let's say he already had a little bit of fertilizer there. So he is allowed to add to it. You don't have to be mamik, or you don't have to put it on a platform if there's already fertilizer there. You're adding fertilizer onto fertilizer doesn't look like you're fertilizing the field. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah Oyser ad sheyamek shleisha et shegbiya shleisha ayad shitin alasela. Now, the stress over here is like this. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah prohibits it unless you dig it into the ground 3 tvachim. Sheyamek, you have to dig it in. Now, the Gemara is assuming here that we're dealing with on Shemitah, and you're actually digging on Shemitah. Now, if Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah holds that hoeing looks like that digging looks like hoeing, and it's aser on Shemitah, so how does he allow you to put the fertilizer on a place that he says you have to dig it in, you have to dig it up before you put it there? You're not allowed to dig. It's Shemitah. Or you raise it up, or you put it on a rock. Okay, so this is the question. Rab Zera, Rabba Bar Mamal they have a teretz to this. It goes like this: not that on Shemitah you're digging it. You're allowed to put it there if the hole was there before. Doesn't it says sheyamek, which sounds like that you have to go and do it, but what it means is shehemek, that it was there already. The other one says that because you're putting the fertilizer there, that makes it very obvious that it's not hoeing, and that's why it would become permissible in this case because of the fertilizer. Okay, you're allowed to fix the broken channels. If there's a water channel, you're allowed to fix it if it's if it's blocked or something. My mikolkelis. What are we talking about? What's the scenario that it's broken? Amar Ababa Shimhai Samuka Tefach Mamid al Shisha Tefach. A channel apparently was 1 amma, 6 tefachim, and if it was originally 6 tefachim, but it got filled in to the point that now there's only 1 tefach of water that's able to travel because there's so much rocks and things that fell into this, you're allowed to remove 5 tefachim to get it back to its original 6 tefachim. Yeah. The Gemara now says, it introduces the following with Pshita. The following is obvious. Chatzi tefach al shleisha tefachim. If it was originally 3 tefachim, but it got filled in to the extent that now it's only a half a tefach deep. Given the layavar maya leiklamu. That was anyways not good enough. When you dig the 3 tefachim to bring it back to what it was, that's not deep enough. It needs to be 6 tefachim. So that's not considered fixing, and because you're probably gonna end up digging it from new all the way down to the 6 tefachim. Tvachayim al shnei maser. We're using the same ratio. If there's 2 tefachim there, and it's 12 tefachim deep, it was originally 12 tefachim, but 10 of them got filled in, and now you're only left with 2 tefachim that the water can flow over. The katarach terchi yisera, that would be too difficult. You're going to end up digging the whole thing, fixing the whole thing. That's too much work. Tvachayim al shiva mahu. Let's say you only have 2 tefachim left, but originally was 7 tefachim. So what's the din by this? In other words, we said pshita. This is obvious that it's forbidden. But what about this? Would this be permissible? So hacha chamisha kamaymek. Look, he's only digging 5 tefachim because he already has 2. Hacha chamisha mamek. Here he's only digging 5. When did we say it was permissible? When it started off as 6 tefachim and 5 of them got filled in, you were allowed to dig up those 5. So here it's 7 tefachim, 5 of them got filled in, so you have 2. So you're going to dig up the other 5. Same thing. That was permissible. This should be permissible. Dilma, or maybe even the ketefach yisera, because there is an extra tefach there. That's too much exertion. Now, what's the pshat that there's too much exertion? Either because you're digging an extra tefach that's not necessary, it's just you're digging it because that's the way it was originally, or actually the bending over to get that one extra tefach is more of an exertion than what's acceptable. So Teku, this leaves us as a question. Abaya, Shara Libnei Bar Hamdach L'Shechufei Nara. He allowed the Bnei Bar Hamdach, some area, people from this area, to family, to clear out a river. We're dealing with on Cholamayid or on Shemitah?
This is showing
Cholamayid. Okay. B'mayid, it says clearly. Saknas and Mekalis b'mayid. Yeah.
Branches now and
Yeah.
make them deeper.
Like the canal?
Yeah, the canal. Except it's more like 20 feet.
Uh-huh.
No,
Okay, so one second, that's coming up. The Shechufe Nara is actually, yeah, you're right. That would be to take out the mangroves.
Wow.
Yeah. Rabbi Yirmiyah Shari Libnei Sekusa Lemichra Nara Tmima. Rabbi Yirmiyah allowed them the Bnei Sekusa to dig a river that was a stream that was filled in. Ravashi Shar Libnei Masamachsa Lekaduche Nahar Burnitz. Ravashi allows the people of Masamachsu, which is his city, to clear the sediment from the bottom of the river Burnitz. Yeah, it doesn't sound like it's in Iraq. Sounds like it's in somewhere in Germany or something. But okay. Amar, he said, Kivan the Shasamane Rabim Karabi Dami, since many people drink from this, so this is considered a public need. But Tanan Nice and called Rabim, and the Mishnah says that you're allowed to take care of the public needs on Chalamayit, so therefore you're allowed to dig this and clear it up. It's in called Rabim. Okay. Now it says in Masaknanes Kilkuli Amayim Shabashisa Rabim. It says in the public area you're allowed to fix the Kilkuli Mayim, damaged water systems. The Gemara says, how do you fix this? It says, Then it says you're allowed to chaitit is to chisel away, to clear away the rocks that have fallen into it. What's the word that they use? Clear. To clear it away. Chatita in chafira light. You're allowed to clear it away, but you're not allowed to dig. That means you're not allowed to dig new. Amar Rab Yaakov, Amar Rab Yochanan, Leishano Lashen Rabin Tzrichanem. When do we say this? That you're not allowed to dig new. That's only if the public don't need it. Aval Rabin Tzrichem Lahem. But if the public need it, then afilu chafira mutter, then you're allowed to dig new water channels for the public. The Gemara says, 1 second. Rabim Tzrichem Lam Mishari. Is that correct? It's Rabbi Yaakov saying in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Is it correct what Rabbi Yaakov is saying? But Tanya, yeah, we have other times where this Rabbi Yaakov says the name of Rabbi Yochanan, different statements, and he says, I don't remember which way it went. If it was referring to this or referring to that, but he quotes Rabbi Yochanan. But Tanya, we have a brayso. Okay, you're allowed to clear away the wells and different reservoirs of a private person, and for sure of the public. But you're not allowed to dig these reservoirs, these wells of the public. And for sure you can't dig new for the private person. My love, it must be even though the public needs it. Sorry. Even though the public needs it, you're still not allowed to dig it in the first case. It says like, why you're not allowed to dig it? It's because the public doesn't need it. That's why, even though it's for the public, but it's just something extra. They already have water. So that's why you're not allowed to do it. Oh, if that's the case, then let's continue reading. The Kavasei Gabi Yachid, that must be the same case regarding the individual. She'ein Yachid Tzarech. The Yachid also doesn't need it. What are we allowed to do for the public? We're only allowed to do the same things that you're allowed to do for the individual, which was chatita, to clear away, but you're not allowed to dig. So what's the case? Do they need it or do they not need it? So now we're holding at the point where we're saying the public doesn't need it, and that's why you're not allowed to dig new. If the public doesn't need it, then that's probably the same case by the individual, where the individual doesn't need it either. So if that's the case, if he doesn't need it, then how did you get chatita mishari? Are you allowed to just clear away stuff that he doesn't need? These reservoirs of a private person, you're allowed to let the water go in, but you're not allowed to clear it away. It's a contradiction. It must be that how do you resolve the contradiction? It depends if he needs it. Like soften esidkayim, you can't smear on the cracks. But if it's the public, if it's the public, then you are allowed to. It must be, if that's the case, then it must be that we're talking about why were you allowed to do the chaytet, to clear it away? It's because the individual does need it. Now we're going to go the other way. If the individual does need it, then that's the same case regarding the public, that the public must also need it, because we made a contrast between the kavasei gabi rabim shram tzrichim them. If that's the case, chafira miyaser, then you're not allowed to dig. But Tanya, we have a brayso. Bar sichan marshal yachid kaintzin ma'am l'seichan v'chaytin naisan avalei shaven eset kem l'chaytin l'seichan avalei sadan naisan besid v'shal rabim chayfer naisan l'sadan naisan besid. We made a contrast between the private person's reservoir, well, and the community. The private person, you're allowed to let the water go in, and you're allowed to clear away as well, probably because he needs it, right? But you're not allowed to plaster it. But if it's the public, you're even allowed to dig, and you're allowed to plaster it because they need it. why are you telling me before that even if they need it, you're not allowed to do it? You're not allowed to dig. You're not allowed to dig, no. Elakashach kamaisa. I hear what you're saying, but then you have a problem with what we said before, that that you're not allowed to be chayfer. The Gemara says, Taratzachi. Explain it like this. You're allowed to clear away a private cistern, a person, an individual's cistern when he needs it. You're allowed to clear it. For sure, you're allowed to do that for the public. Because when they need it. Because you're even allowed to dig new for the public. You're not allowed to dig new for the public when it's not necessary because they already have. And for sure, you're not allowed to dig new for a private person. Because if a private person doesn't need it, then you're not even allowed to clear away. Forget about digging new. Ravashi says you can prove this from the Mishnah as well. It says you're allowed to do all the needs of the public. What's it coming to include when you already said that you're allowed to clear away? It says, must be coming to tell us that you're even allowed to dig new channels of water if the public needs it. The Gemara says, Loi, it's not a raya, because lasuyi hadatanya, it's coming to tell me other things, not that you're allowed to dig new water channels. It says, you're allowed to go out to clear away thorns along the roads. You're allowed to fix the roads. It's highways. You're allowed to fix the highways. You measure the mikveh, make sure it's not missing water. Any mikveh that doesn't have 40 sa, margilim, is they cause the water stream to flow over and to fill it up. How do you know that if they didn't go to fix the roads and someone gets hurt and there's blood that's spilled, that it's as if they spilt that blood? In other words, they're responsible to make sure that the roads are Talmud Laimar, there will be blood on what's the whole pasuk there? What is the English?
Innocent blood shall not be shed in the midst of your land.
An innocent blood should not be shed.
For then blood will be upon you.
For then blood will be upon you. That's referring to that if you don't fix it up, we're saying that that's makes us responsible. The Gemara says, it says this clearly. We're going back to the digging. Okay. What happened here was that we said that kol isin kol tzarki rabim was coming to include that you're allowed to dig the water reservoir, water channels, if the public need it. We said, nah, it's coming to include that you have to fix the roads. So I don't need that to tell me that I have to fix the roads because I have clear brisa that says that. So therefore, it must be coming to include that you're allowed to dig new water channels. Let's go a little further here. You can mark off graves so that the Kayanim don't go there and become Tameh. Give me a source, a hint in the Torah that you have to mark off graves. Talmud Laimar, in Yechezkel, in one of his visions, he sees a bone of a man, and he builds on it a monument. Okay. Amalei Ravina Ravashi, Hamakami Delesi Yechezkel Man Amar. Yechezkel was during the Galus Bavel. There's a bunch of years from when the Torah was given to Galus Bavel. How did they know then that they needed to mark off graves? He says, well, if you really think that's a question, Rav Chizda says that we only learn this from Yechezkel, the following. that a kohen that doesn't have a bris is not allowed to serve in the Beis Hamikdash. Why wouldn't he have a bris? Probably because Mesach of Machmas Mila, his brothers were hemophilia. So we only know that from Yecheskel. Mekamid leis Yecheskel man Amar. Who said it before Yecheskel? There was a Beis Hamikdash before Yecheskel also. So Ela Gemara Gemirila. We have a tradition. Vas Yecheskel vas Mechakra. Came along Yecheskel and gave us a pasuk to support it. Same thing here when it comes to marking off a grave. We always had a tradition that the Jewish people mark off graves, and it was just Yecheskel came and gave us a pasuk. I'm not sure. I think there is Tumas Mag, not Tumas Oyel, but Tumas. There's there may be even there's a machlekes actually Mechaber Rama if there's Tumas Oyel by a non-Jew. If you could be in the house with a non-Jew. Okay.
Once it's buried.
Oh, once it's buried. Oh, okay. Okay, could be.
I know.
Oh, really? Oh boy. Rabavo Amar Mehacha. Rabavo says, well, here's the source. It says, Tami Yikra. Call out Tami. This is the what's it called? The tzaras. Tuma kaira loy va'imeres loy preish. He calls out that he's Tami. He tells people to stay away. So that tells us that you have to mark off a grave. Rabbu Ziel, Barbarate the Rabbu Ziel Rabba. Tuma kaira loy va'imeres loy preish. Rabbu Ziel, the grandson of the great Rabbu Ziel, he says this in this as well. Is that what it's coming to tell me? That you have to mark off a grave? We need it for a brisa. What he's really doing is he's telling everyone that I'm in trouble. Everyone, please daven for me. So if that's the case, if that's all it's teaching me, then it should just say he calls out that he's impure. My v'tamei tamei. Why does it say a double expression? Shamet minei taiti. We learn two things from this. Abaye Amar Mehacha. Abaye says from the following: that you shouldn't put a stumbling block. The kohen shouldn't become tamei. Rav Papa Amar, he says va'imar seilu panu derech. Says clear away, move away anything that's impure. Rav Chinana Amar harimu michshal miderech ami. Take away a stumbling block from my nation. Rabbi Shua Breder Ravidi Amar Veidatalem Es Haderech HaShielcha, but you have to let them know the way that they should go on, which is not Tamid. Marzutra Amar Vizartem Es Pnei Mitamasam, that you should warn the Jewish people from impurity. Ravashi Amar Shmartem Es Mishmarti, you should guard my guarding. Asu Mishmeres Mishmarti, you have to put protections up to make sure that no one becomes tummy. Ravina Amar V'Sam Derech Arenu V'Yesh Elihim. How do they translate V'Sam Derech? You make a simon. That's what he's translating it here. That you make a simon on the road, and then he sees the Hashem's salvation. Amr B'Shua ben Levi, kala samar chaysav. Let's stop at Amr B'Shua ben Levi. We'll do that tomorrow. Okay. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Happy to be.
Happy to be.